I want to welcome Mpoomy on stage.
You can turn me on with just a touch, baby.
Now you're making me cry.
Okay, I'm not doing that because I'm equally horrible with that kind of stuff.
Welcome to Wisdom and Wellness. I'm Mpoomy Ledwaba, the founder and your host. Our goal is to build deep connections with my guests and audience through powerful and meaningful conversations. Be inspired as we learn and grow together.
Okay, no crying.
You already had me crying at
I'm
the
so
step.
glad. When we start to look like we're crying, just clap, guys.
Yeah.
And then we'll take a moment and gather ourselves and get back into the conversation. I'm so excited to have you here.
It feels different being on the other side. I
I can imagine.
I don't know what to expect, but already like my emotions are so heightened. Firstly, the beautiful work that you've done, the energy in the room. Man!
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I was busy working on my questions for Mpoomy last night, and I said to her, because normally I tell people I'll send you like some kind of anchor around, what I'm gonna ask and how I'm gonna ask it. And I sent her a message. I was sitting at a restaurant actually, and I was finishing up her questions, and I said, "Can I get permission to not send you the questions?" And I think I wanted to do that because you have such an energy of authenticity, and I wanted that to come through.
Yeah.
I think that's what we all appreciate about you. That's what we all appreciate about the space. It's the truth of our experiences and our lives. So. First question.
Okay. I'm ready.
You're 28.
Yes.
You've built a cult following. It is a cult.
Isn't there a better word?
It is a cult.
It's a family. Family? Yeah, family. I even see the faces. I know them.
You've built this amazing following through your content creation. What did you want to become growing up?
Girl, at first I wanted to become a dermatologist because I liked that I could pronounce dermatologist. This is me in primary school. Mom wanted to be a dermatologist. And then there was a time where I just fell in love with drawing and design. I think creativity has always been part of me. And so I started drawing and designing, and then I had this one specific dress that my dad had looked at, and he really loved it and said, "You're gonna be a designer, let's go make this dress." And my dad actually had the dress made, and I wore it on Sunday, and I was convinced I'm gonna be a fashion designer. And then accounting happened. I mean, I was an A student in accounting. I was like, okay, if I'm an accountant, I know I'll be rich. I've always loved money, so everything is informed by money, by the way, all of this money. If I can be a CA, I know I will travel. I will be able to afford a Mercedes-Benz. So CA it is. And then there was music. Then I wanted to be a musician. So what you're saying about breadcrumbs and not always having a clear answer is really, really true for me. I couldn't articulate that this is what I would be doing. I didn't know I wanted to be a speaker or I could be a speaker. All I knew is that my mom took me to speech and drama classes. Everybody made me open in prayer. And I was just always that loud person. But it was a lot of things. I wanted to be everything that makes money.
Do you find that where you are now creating content, it allows you to become all of those different parts of yourself?
100%. 100%. I always look at, and there was a time where we wanted to sell our content, and we had the opportunity to, and we took meetings, and it's nice. You get the money up front, and then we had to sit down, my husband and I, and say, okay, but then who controls the narrative? And that's the thing with ownership. It takes way longer, way harder. I think this whole week I'm living on 4 hours of sleep. It's way harder. There's a lot of sacrifices, but I get to control the narrative. So no one gets to tell me, oh no, you can't bring this Jesus thing. Oh no, you can't be singing. Oh no, you can't speak about sex, or you can't speak about these things and be this. So I get to control the narrative on my platform, and that's the most important thing. And it's allowed me to express gifts I didn't know that I had. So on my journey, on my way, I'm discovering I can do this.
Yeah.
Okay, let's explore this. And by the way, I get bored very, very, very easily.
I understand that.
Easily.
One of the things I
Yeah.
said to you when I met you, I was like, you remind me so much of myself at 28
Yeah, you said
because
that.
that was a long time ago. That was a long, long time ago, but
Yeah,
yes.
so I get bored very easily. So I think it helps for me. Once I've figured out something, okay, who can I get to do this? I don't want to do it anymore. I want to do the next thing. So I think my content creation, the space that we've created, allows me to express all my gifts. And I feel like every time I've like excelled in this gift, God's like, okay, you can handle it. Let's add another gift.
Yeah.
Let's add another gift,
Yeah.
you know? So that's what it feels like.
Yeah, referencing the Bible a little bit because I am speaking to the Bible girl. You know, there is a story, I think it was particularly David. I'm not
Yeah. We all aren't. We're all figuring it out.
correct me. I know the story, but I don't know the characters.
Okay.
I know there was a guy in the Bible.
Okay.
I think his name was David. I think God called him.
Yeah. David was called.
David was called?
Yeah.
I think it was David. I think God called him, and he had a little bit of challenges here and there. That's the guy who killed Goliath, right?
Yeah, boo.
That's the guy. So I remember he started as a shepherd.
Sorry?
He started as a
yes,
shepherd.
he was a shepherd, and then he had to kill a lion. Wait, did he kill the lion or the bear first? Both of them, all of them. The lion and the bear, and then Goliath.
Sounds like a lot like Bayete to me, but anyway, we'll leave that out. But when you speak about how when you get to the next level, there's always the next challenge. That's David's story.
100%.
You know, starting off as a shepherd
Yeah.
and having all of those challenges and eventually defeating Goliath and then becoming a king.
It connects. How can you be a king if you've never led
Absolutely.
anyone?
Absolutely.
And by virtue of being a shepherd, sheep are waiting for you to tell them what to do. You're feeding them. You can't get angry at a sheep and like, there's the no. You're a shepherd, and that's exactly what leadership is. And the higher you go, the more challenging it becomes. So we need those lessons. I was talking to Ulondi now, and we were speaking about owning a salon. She asked me if I missed it, and I said, girl, please, no. But the lessons. The lessons.
Yeah, yeah.
The
Aren't you proud of
lessons.
me for bringing that David in?
Huh? I am.
Oh, I
but
mean,
I
and
feel
it
like
makes
you
sense.
know, but you know these stories. We spoke a lot about spirituality.
Yeah.
And I think it's very important to say this, that our paths are different and we connect to God very differently. And I never ever want my presence. I mean, I'm no Bible guru. I think Nuri knows Bible verses better than me. But it's important for everyone to allow themselves to grow in their journey of spirituality. I actually wanted to mention it. Maybe you'll ask me later, but I do want to mention it, that actually how I founded Wisdom and Wellness was based on scripture, 3 John 1 verse 2. And I was in such a dark place where I'm like, God, is this it? Like, yes, I can pay rent. I'm no longer stressing about rent anymore. But man, I'm miserable. And the scripture basically in summary says, beloved, I pray that you may have health physically, just as your soul prosper, like you may be successful. And I said, you want me to be successful holistically?
Yeah.
Like my soul, my body, my finances, that's what you want? Okay, now let's make sure everybody has the same life.
Yeah, love that. Absolutely. I want to know when content creation became a real thing. I mean, you're out here saying you want to be an accountant. When do you drop that and when do you become a content creator?
Okay, so I dropped out of school. I dropped out of varsity.
After all that drama.
I can't say kids stay in school because I don't think there's kids there. That's normally my thing when I speak. I'm like, kids stay in school. But yeah, I went to accounting. And you know what, Nomdeni, and I think you know this, we all have a voice inside us that we learn to ignore. We spoke about it, eh? We learn to ignore. And Mama O, our favorite, says eventually it starts by a whisper, then it's a loud voice, and then eventually it has to crash. It's like, are you going to pay attention? And for me, I knew accounting wasn't my path, but I also understand that God is purposeful even in not doing what we're supposed to do. So then I got into accounting. I did very well, even got a bursary, and I got a job in accounting, and I was earning good money, like good money. For a 20-year-old, had a car, I was earning good money. And that's when I realized, a few months down the line, that is this me forever? And I was so miserable. And I was listening to your Heather Lindsay's at work. As soon as I'm done what I'm doing, I'm diligent, I was still diligent. I would sit on the computer, on the internet, on YouTube, and Google T.D. Jakes, listen to his sermons. Heather Lindsay, who does similar to what we're doing. Your Sarah Jakes, I was reading Sarah Jakes' book. And somehow I couldn't identify that that's where my path is leading, but I came alive, you know? And so first I started by telling my parents, look, I just don't enjoy this job. And my parents were like, it's fine. You're 20, 21, you don't have to have a job. And I left it. And eventually the accounting started eating me and I was so miserable. Funny enough, I was doing well, but so it was just not enough.
And that's important, right?
It's just not enough.
That's important that, you know, oftentimes you think you have to be in a dark space in the sense of financially, because we think of challenges in a very financial way. And that's why everyone thinks when they see someone driving a Bentley or a Porsche or they have the biggest house, there's no way they wouldn't be happy. So at times we need to understand that happiness is not necessarily about the things that you have, but how you feel.
Externally, yes, exactly.
How you feel.
Exactly.
And you can feel great about the things that you have and be happy.
Yeah.
And you can have things and still not feel great.
100%.
So there is no prescription to it, but you have to understand what it is that you are called for.
Listen to what's happening on the inside. Your body tells you also. Body language. I always mention Cicely Tyson, and she says whenever she was going for an audition for a movie, her stomach would tell her if this is the role for her. If it turns and it feels uncomfortable, she knew it wasn't for her. But if there's peace, then it was for her. And I think we all have that. We have that connection with our body where you know for a fact that this is not what you're supposed to be doing. So fast forward to shorten the story, I did accounting, and then I was writing my exams, and I studied so hard. I was very ready for that test. And I went to go write the test, and when they said, so in finance, they gave you like a 10-minute reading time. I'm starting, I've got my pencil, my brain goes dead, completely dead, blank. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I always used to pray before I write. I'm like, God, please, I need you. All the information, I've done my part, I need you to do your part. And my brain's not coming to the party. Nothing's happening. And then I start daydreaming. And I feel like daydreaming plays it down, but I start daydreaming about all the things God wants to do in my life. And before I know it, 10 minutes is over, you may start writing. I haven't started reading. I know for a fact there's no way I'll finish this test. I haven't read, you know? And so I put up my hand, I stand up. I don't know if I knew I was dropping out then, but I think I do know I was dropping out. Yeah. I picked up my hand and I said, excuse me, ma'am, to the invigilator, sorry, I can't finish my test, I'm not feeling well. And she said, are you sure you're not going to get another chance to write? And I said, I'm sure, I'm just not feeling well. Handed in my paper, and that was my last day in YouTube, in accounting. It was hard. It was very, very, very hard. Extremely hard. Very hard 2 years of my life, but I needed it. Very hard, very lonely, but I needed it. Stop making me cry.
What did I do? I'm just watching you.
Thank you. It was very hard. Thank you. It was very hard, and I didn't know how or where I would go. And a lot of times I thought, it's easy to just go back. And to a certain extent, I stayed away from home because that's what everybody at home was saying. Yeah. Not out of spite, but out of love.
Absolutely.
You know, you're good at this. You can do this. Go finish. My grandmother said I just need to eat fish because my brain's tired. That was my grandmother. But left accounting. I did a lot of piece jobs. So I went from earning 10, 15,000 in a month to earning 300 Rand a day because now I'm doing promotions. Then I started a cleaning company. Then I got into beauty, the beauty business. I felt like, oh, I've got my thing. I found it, you know. Did house calls and I was exceptional at it. And then I opened a salon and I did extremely well. And then Brendan, who loves consuming content, I didn't really watch YouTube. He was like, I think you should start a YouTube channel. I'm like, sorry, Puti, please, I'm running a business. Like, you know? And then I did it on one condition. I said, if you take care of everything, I'll just come with the story. I don't want to think about a camera. I don't want to think about anything. I just want you to make it look pretty, and I will show up.
You made a good decision there.
Very brilliant
you made a good decision there.
I still can't operate a camera.
Brandon is on top of the job.
Yeah.
Full time all the time.
Yeah. So did that, and then the YouTube thing started growing, and then brands started getting interested. And then I started getting, first it was like free things, free products, nice. And then the money started rolling in, and when I knew this is a business was when I got offered my first 50,000 rand, and I was like, good shot. This is where I'm going.
Now I'm rich.
I'm good.
Now
but
I'm
I think
rich.
already I had been taking it very seriously and professionally. But that first 50,000 rand is when I registered a company, and now we have like little scrums. Brendan and I have it's a scrum. We come together and we devise a plan, and that's when we said, okay, so this is where the money is.
You know, when we first met, one of the things I said to you is I've been having these thoughts around process.
Yeah.
I said that to you.
Yeah.
And I'm listening to this story, and I don't know if those thoughts are around you or they are just around everything I need to be paying attention to. I've had this for a very long time, even before we spoke, that it's going to be so important for us to speak about process.
100%.
And not the results.
Yeah.
We get so stuck in the results, we really trip up in the process.
Yeah.
You know? You find people stuck in the same place because they want to jump from 5 to 10.
Yeah.
But if you just went to 6, you'll eventually make it to 10.
100%.
So listening to your story, it reminds me of that, and I'll share a little bit about what was similar for me, because I want these conversations to be, you know, it feels to me almost like when I have these conversations, I'm sitting in the lounge in the couch, and I have you guys watching. This is like YouTube, and you guys are watching. That's how I always think about it, because here's the thing. There are certain things that there's certain people you might not have access to.
Yeah.
Certain stories you might not have access to. That's the power of these platforms. When someone says, not another woman's event, you tell them, that's how my life continues to change.
Yeah.
We have to make people understand the power of conversations. The reason you guys think America is the best thing that's ever happened is because of their stories.
100%.
It's only because of their stories. When you go to New York for the first time, you get the shock of your life. When you realize how dirty that city is. But the stories they've told you about that place is the reason you spend your last cent to go there.
Yeah.
So there is something called the story economy. I'm coining it today. So here's my story. I decided that I'm going to leave. I just had my second child. He's somewhere here. He's a boy. He's 15 in 2018. I decided that I'm not going to do this work thing. I'm going to leave. Similar, I had, my then husband, who I didn't even have a conversation with him. I think that's why we're not married anymore. But anyway, in the story at the end of the day, I decided to quit my job, and I decided to start this DJing school. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just going to go ahead and do it, because similar to you, I could never stay and not do anything.
Yeah.
My curiosity always leads me.
Yeah.
I started DJing school. We're so happy. There's people calling, but we're not really making money. I call a Skido, who I had met for the first time in promoting the school, because I grew up in Newcastle and I didn't know who a Skido was. But anyway. And then I say to him, and I've known him for a little bit, and I say to him, I think you must make me your PA. I had a job at Discovery Health.
Hectic.
It was my second job. But in that moment, I knew I was not going to work for anyone. I understood that about myself. I said, make me your PA. I sent him a text. I was not even familiar with him. He says to me, why? I said, because I need the job. I need the money and you need the help. Literally, that was my answer. And I always remember that.
Yeah.
We get to Durban, he drives around with me. He says to me, okay, cool. Okay, so no problem. We'll get back home and then I'll tell you what it is. He says, but I'll pay you 3,000 rands.
That's what the beginning looks like.
He says, I'll pay you 3,000 rands. I know how much he books for an hour. So I've already calculated his coins. He says, I'll pay you 3,000 rands. Let me tell you, that 3,000 rands was the gateway to where I am today.
Yes, ma'am.
Because
100%.
in actual fact, I went and I started working with him, and I was so diligent. We're very similar in that we're A-type personality. Not always a good thing, let me tell you. Not always a good thing. I went and I made sure that he relies on me. I made a decision. This man, when he wakes up in the morning, he must not know where his pen is without me knowing where the pen is. And I remember the first month, he paid me 30,000 rands. I remember it well.
From 3,000?
He never paid me the 3,000. He said to me, when he realized my commitment, and I'm telling this story because there are certain decisions you're going to make that are going to need you to show up beyond what other people are seeing.
Yes.
you know?
Yeah.
So when I got there, I said, I am going to organize everything. You should have seen me. That's when I was sleeping at midnight. That's why now I'm not a 5 a.m. club. But anyway, he said to me, for everything that we make, I'll give you a piece.
Sure.
And that's the power for Skido. I will always speak about that man because he really opened doors for me. And I've been very lucky to have a lot of male mentors. But back to you.
Yeah. That's a good story.
You know, excellence is a true mark of everything that you do. We can see it in the work that you do.
I tried.
It feels like it's a commitment that you've made for yourself, that you'll
Yeah.
continue to be excellent. I remember I saw a post that you made where you referenced Adrian Berlin's page and you said that's the level that you want to go.
Yeah.
When did you make the commitment to excellence and what was your benchmark at the time?
I've always been a perfectionist, which is not a good thing, because you just never reach perfectionism, and I guess underneath being a perfectionist is insecure.
Yeah.
I don't know how it links, but somehow I can agree to that. And so everything I've done, so here's the thing about me, I'm not the kind of girl or kind of person who goes into a room and just writes a test and gets 80%. If I don't study, I will fail, right? And I know that. If I don't practice, I will come last. So even in school, I've never been number 1 in top 10, but I've worked times 20 to just get into the door of top 10, right? In sports, in athletics, I've never been number 1, but I will work hard to be number 2 or number 3. So I guess that's where the insecurity links in that, oh, why am I never number 1? Why am I never the best? But okay, I will work to at least be close. So that's where it stems from, which is not always a good thing. So I've always wanted to make sure that I put in the work to at least be on a similar level to my peers who are doing exceptionally well. And then I watched an interview by Mama O again, a Vogue interview, and they asked her, Wuti, so what is your brand? She said, people always ask me what is my brand. And she's like, when I started, there's no such thing as a brand. Excellence is my brand. And I said, okay,
That's
I'm
what I'm
taking
gonna do.
that. And I'm still walking that path, and so I cannot stand and be like, yes, excellence, excellence. Mostly it stems from perfectionist, trying to have everything, like a skew line drives me crazy. If my kids don't eat at 7:30 and they eat at 7:32, I literally lose my mind, you know? And it's not fun, it's not nice, but I can see where it is beneficial. So it's just learning and growing and trying to manage that no, I can't be perfect. I mean, Speak Life September is coming up now. Inside. And my opening module is on self-acceptance, because that's been such a struggle. Like, why can't you just accept things as they are?
Yeah. What's your relationship to failure?
My relationship with failure. Now it's not bad. I don't see, for recent years, I don't see anything and say I failed. I look at things and say I didn't give it my all. So I'm okay with failing, 100% okay with failing, but I don't label it as failure, I label it as lessons. And I think it's one of the things my salon, look, if you're 18, 19, 20 years old and walking out of an exam room, and you come from a family that is learned and you have a bursary and you have to tell your bursary you're done, I don't think failure is a huge thing anymore. Like, I've done it. I've done the biggest disappointment you could ever do, or what felt like the biggest disappointment to me. That was the biggest thing for me, and nothing compares to that feeling. Nothing. I haven't experienced anything that can compare to that feeling. So I guess that I have a good relationship with failure, if you want to call it that.
When was the last time you cried because you felt like you didn't give it your all? Because I won't call it failure anymore. We're calling it not giving it your all.
I didn't cry, but I threw a tantrum. I don't cry as often as I used to anymore, and that was one of my goals for the year, is that, and we speak about 7 spiritual laws of success, Deepak Chopra, and every time I buy a book, in the first page, I write my intention for the book, right? And then when I'm done with the book, I go back and I see, have I actually gotten what I needed? Was my intention correct? And my intention for reading that book was that I want to go back to self. I want
That's
to...
a powerful
Yeah,
book.
I want to be a spiritual being anymore. Because I think once you start achieving, it's very easy. Like I always say there's a place. It's almost like, look at it here. And it's very, very hard to get here, right? And once you get here, in terms of financial career success, on here it's easy. In fact, you have to be like, no, I don't want to do it anymore, you know? And once you get here above this level, now it's the success of the soul, of the being. Because the money is there, the opportunities are there, the false is there, and it's there in abundance. But then the self now is fighting and saying, what about me? What
Yeah.
about me? What about me? You know?
Absolutely.
Thank you. And so that was my intention for the year. I don't know why I got there. I was telling you about not crying anymore. So I realized that I'm not in touch with my emotions as much. I'm a machine. Like, I'm just such a machine, and I can't keep living like a machine. And so that book has helped me with that. But yesterday I threw a tantrum.
Just yesterday.
Yeah.
Tell us
But it was
about
an internal tantrum where my husband said, let's go get coffee. And we went and we got coffee, and I was fine. It's with regards to Speak Life September. And you know, the funny thing is, people don't see these things, but you see them. It's like, why is the full stop there and not there? It's those kind of things that make me crack. So not the big things, the small things make me crack and burst into tears.
You know what I really enjoy about you is how you are clear about what your vulnerabilities are and the points that, you know, because there's sometimes this thing that people do, you know, when they follow you and you say, and you know we've spoken about this, I'm bringing it up again, and you say, I wake up at 5, and then people think if I want to be successful like Mpoomy, I should wake up at 5. No, you don't.
No, please.
You absolutely do not. So what I really enjoy about you is your openness to discovering who you are.
Yeah.
And allowing yourself to move into that new thing. Because the ability to do that is really the ability to grow.
Yes.
The ability to say, you know what, I used to think 5 a.m. was the thing, but not anymore.
No, Mdeni, I prioritize joy. I want to be joyful. And when I don't have joy, it's a big problem for me. Like, take it all, but I need joy. And in situations, in the presence of people, I prioritize my joy. And joy is not bursting into laughter all the time, but my soul. I really, really prioritize my soul because I take it everywhere. I can't even say I take it everywhere. My soul takes my body everywhere. It is who I am. And if that part is not sorted, then nothing else matters.
Tell me what scares you the most now.
What scares me the most now? Not having the time to fulfill my potential. I'm very aware of my potential. I'm very aware of my strengths. I'm very aware of who I am, who I can be. And, but I think it's an age thing. We've spoken about it. It's an age thing. I'm 20 years old. I think there's not enough time, but really there is a lot of time.
Wait till you get to my age.
There's a lot of time, and I speak to older women, which is my favorite thing. And you realize that what we do have is time. But currently, honestly, truthfully, knowing all those facts, my truth is still that, do I have the time, and not time in years, but time in a day, to fulfill all I have to do? Because what I do is not for me. I serve the needs of people. So I don't get to say, Khalil. I don't get to say I don't feel like it. I don't get to say, I'm tired, and please listen to it in context. I'm not saying I don't rest or anything, but I don't get to say, it's not working, you know, because it's not about me.
I'm very, very clear that I'm not going to change this whole thing in this lifetime.
Yeah.
So when I build this business, I'm building it to outlive me.
For future, yeah.
Because the mission is 235 years.
Sure.
So how do we make that look like 100 years? When you think about collaboration in context to really the need for all of us to collaborate and figure out how to work together in the spaces that we need to work together, but also to continue to do the work that we do in the silos that we do them. What's your take on this, and what's been your experience?
I think firstly we need to differentiate between collaboration and partnership and fear.
And insecurity.
And insecurity, yeah. Personally, I've started a lot of things, and every time I started, I want to get the woman next to me and say, come, let's do this thing. And it never worked out because it was based on, at least if it falls apart, I'm not alone. We're doing it together. As much as you won't say it out loud, but I think in retrospect, that's the feeling that I'm getting. Ukuthi, I've been given an assignment, but in like I want to collect people, let's do it together, right? So that firstly is the wrong energy or the wrong way to do it. But when it comes to collaboration, I think it's important, and it goes back to the spirit. And I will always go there because we are spiritual beings having a physical experience. Yes, and whenever we do collaborations, firstly, our values have to align.
100%.
We cannot collaborate if our values don't align. Yes, maybe for me, being a billionaire and exploiting the environment is okay, and I have someone I can collaborate with who's okay with that. That's great. But what if I'm collaborating with someone who believes in the environment, but imali, here's the opportunity of pushing the agenda, but who's now, who's betraying themselves? The other person's betraying themselves, and that's the important thing about collaboration, is that you shouldn't have to betray yourself. The goal has to be common. The goal has to be common. The value has to be common. Of course we're going to butt heads. That's inevitable. Of course we're going to butt heads the same way in our marriages, but a marriage cannot work if our values are not the same. So the values are important. And then another thing, I'm going to keep bringing up Londi because I just had a conversation with her. We were talking about how we can both feel the shift in energy where women are realizing we need each other.
100%.
Not because I'm inadequate or insufficient, but because, whoa, this pie is too big. I can't do it. And you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. We're aligned. The vision is the same. The purpose is the same. We care about each other. I'm not just trying to eat the most. There's nothing worse than going into partnership or collaboration with someone who's just trying to eat. Life is bigger than just trying to eat. Life is bigger than just trying to make the most money. Imali khona, money is in abundance. Look at the trees. The trees don't compete for more leaves. They are secure in their own leaves. They're secure in their abundance. However, if you just take a look at outside, these trees put next to these ones come alive. There's a beauty in that. So I always make a reference. Nature is my metaphor for life. And that's why I believe so much in abundance, because there's no shortage of trees. Yes, the environmentalists will cut, yes, but ultimately we have trees. There's no shortage of trees. There's no shortage of the ocean. The ocean doesn't stop. It doesn't end. There's no shortage. But it's important to work together. In the sea, when you look at the ocean, the water knows where to stop. When the water doesn't stop, what do we get? A disaster. Yeah. And so when collaboration does not look with the same values, does not work together, we get disasters. But when the sea and the land knows when to stop, which parts they play, man, it's magic.
Absolutely. I really love the way that you unpacked the idea of collaboration and aligning it to values, because I think there's a lot of narratives that we perpetuate as women that we are told by other people, but we don't stop and rethink.
Yeah.
So the minute someone says, why don't get into this fine? Why don't you day one? But you never stop to think about what does that mean?
Yeah.
And I would highly advise you to not take advice from someone who's not doing the thing that they're advising you on.
Yeah. Guys, if you follow me on Instagram, did you see that goat that I put on Instagram? Yeah, so there's this meme that says every time people have comments or advice, and then the goat just goes, man. Well, that's how you need.
I saw that as well. I saw that as well.
And all of a sudden, when you're doing something, you could literally be starting a cooking company, and then a person with a painting company wants to tell you how to
make an egg.
No. And it's not to say we shut out people, but be careful who you take to heart.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I see it all the time with people just throwing out statements that they heard in a YouTube channel somewhere, but they've never really lived the experience.
Yeah.
Be careful.
Yeah.
Be very careful where you share your dreams. Be very careful who you listen to, who you give time to. This goes straight into your mind.
Yeah.
What you listen to, what you pay attention to, what you wake up and see, what you wake up and experience. Very slowly, it goes into your mind. There was a time when I stopped watching television because I knew it was a moment I needed stillness, and
Yeah.
I needed to listen to the voice coming from here and not the voices coming from here. So you need to be very careful where you land your ear.
Yes, ma'am.
You are landing it.
Yes, ma'am.
You are giving permission for someone to tell you things that are not going to build you. So anyway, I had a point that I wanted to make. Now I've forgotten it.
I'm
But
sorry.
going back, another thing that I want to encourage women to do, I'm going to say something controversial, but I'm going to say it because I believe it. There's a narrative that some of you might also perpetuate, which is not part of the Agenda Women values. And I'm going to say it because it aligns with what you're saying before I ask you my last question, because
Oh, no.
the technical team is like staring me down. You know, this idea of women not getting along. We
You done
need to
touched a
stop.
nerve.
We need to stop talking about it.
Yeah.
Never ever, never ever, never ever ever go out and say women don't get along.
It's not true.
Uthatha indaba zasendlini uzisa ngaphandle.
It's not true.
We need to figure out what we need to do. If we need to even figure it out.
Yeah.
Because who does it benefit, that narrative?
The other gender.
Who does it benefit? You might not get along with someone else's personality,
Yes.
not because of their gender. I want you to make a promise to me that you will never open your mouth
Say that again.
and say women don't get along.
Yes.
You will say, angimthandi Mpoomy. Awuthandi Mpoomy.
Yeah.
There's something in you that might not connect with her
And that's
now.
okay.
And as you grow, it might change.
Yeah.
But the more you perpetuate the idea, you're building a story.
Yeah.
It's catching fire every time you say it. It's very important to understand the idea of values,
Yeah,
Mpumi,
yeah.
going back to what you said.
Yeah.
When we don't share the same values, we won't get along.
No.
But when we share the same values, we'll get along.
Yeah.
Let's find English word. Throat chakra must open up. Find English word. We don't share the same values.
Yeah.
I don't like him or her. Never ever say, women don't get
Don't
along.
Get along. Yeah. Love that.
The last thing I'm going to ask you, because now I have a timeout. What's
Has it been
next?
an hour?
I think it's been more than that.
Ah.
What's next for wisdom and wellness?
What's next for wisdom and wellness? I think if there's something I want to stamp in everyone is that we are building a wellness hub. And if you need to be well, we are the first place you come to. And we're based on our 5 pillars, spirituality being our foundation, spiritual wellness, mental and emotional wellness, relational wellness, physical wellness, and then financial wellness. So if you need a doctor for these 5 things, we are wisdom and wellness, and we house that. And it looks like different ways of serving through a podcast, through events, through books, through boot camps, working out together, courses. We are building the plane as we are flying, but I know that actually yesterday I changed. I wanted to be the biggest wellness hub in Africa, and then yesterday I experienced a few technical glitches. I was like, oh, Joburg is fine. Joburg is fine. But I mean, we have people all over who catch it. And the best thing about wisdom and wellness is the platform is so safe. And just like Agenda Woman, the platform is so safe. And I feel like I never have to explain.
Yeah.
There's that connection. We're not building
It's a
perfection.
feeling.
Yeah, we're not building perfection. We are building community. And most importantly, guys, my desire, and it goes back to that scripture, please live it. God wants us to be spiritually well, right? Whatever spiritual means different things to us. If the sky is your portion, make the sky your portion. If whatever's your portion, spirituality, your being, right? Emotional and mental. You could have everything you want, but if your mind, your emotions are not in control, you cannot enjoy that. Relational. Nobody wants to be alone. We need these relationships. We need people. We need friends. We need partners. We need to have healthy relationships. Physical. We can't enjoy these things if we're unfit, if we're unhealthy, if we are lying in bed, in hospital. And then financial. We need money.
A lot of it.
Money is good, money is lovely, but
lot
money
of
is
it.
at the end because money does not solve these problems. Money anchors and it makes it nice. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give a round of applause to Mpoomy Ledwaba.
Thank you so much.
That was amazing.